programs like this. My name is Nick Caravella. I'm with Avocado Construction Technology Services. I'm an architect by trade that went into technology to help with the communication problems that teams have when they approach their program and projects, which in our day and age, that's kind of the hard work, right? Is the communication, trying to keep people on the same page, keep things moving in the same direction. And I think that's the beautiful part of our industry too. It's where the people start to come into place. And so this conversation today of driving efficiency and service excellence with digital transformation, while a very buzzy headline, is really focused on you guys and the people behind the projects and getting them done. So we're gonna go ahead, introduce the panel, learn a little bit more about what they're doing and how they're creating change in the way we work and how they improve the service that even the customers and the public see from the work that they do. And we're gonna learn more about where things are going as well. So with that, I'll get out of the way here and we'll start some introductions. Patrick, if you wanna take us off.
Sure, my name is Patrick Strito. I'm an executive officer with our information technology team at LA Metro. I guess I'm one of the prerequisite Metro employees that's presenting today. I've been in transit now for 40 years. That's a long time to see a lot of digital transformation, a lot of things that are going on in our organization. We have several projects going on. We have an app consolidation. If you do business with Metro or if you're a rider or a customer, the proliferation of applications that you can download off of the different stores is numerous, and we're trying to consolidate that, make that a little bit better user experience. We have several AI initiatives that are going forward. We did a POC with some of the vendors. There is a lot of hype around AI, and we're checking out that hype and seeing what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I know Metrolink just issued I think it was a $1.3 million contract for AI detection of people on the track so that prevents accidents. And we're going to be looking at some of those same type of things. We actually creating an AI policy, and so there's a lot to do with that. But there's also the evaluation of what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. There's a lot of transformation going on in our organization. So really excited to be here, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Manjeet Singh. I'm a Deputy Director for Telecom and Utility for City of San Diego. My background was from the telecom side, 25 years in the private sector with the top 3 telecom companies, worked all over US. 2.5 years with City of San Diego. My job entails the permitting for all the telecom and utilities and inspection team. I manage those teams. And also serve as an in-house subject matter expert on anything telecom or AI related, part of evaluation team for mayor's office and CTO to give my feedback based on my work in the private sector. I used to work in AI when it was called predictive analytics, and now evaluate a part of the team that evaluates the tool for City of San Diego. Thank you.
Hello, Infraday, California. How's everybody feeling? Thank you, thank you. My name is Robert Gillum. I am Chief of Project Management with San Bernardino County's Project and Facilities Management Department. I'm with the Project Management Division. We have a really big capital improvement program. It's grown significantly over the last 5 years, from around 350, 375 million in projects to now well over $1.5 billion in projects, consistent linear growth. I have a really awesome team. It's interdisciplinary. So we have building inspectors, we have project managers, we have project controls analysts. It's a really awesome place to work. So before I was with the county, I was a tradesperson. I saw that we have some trade representation. I was actually a carpenter, local 2361, now local 909. I have my 15-year pin. Thank you so much for being here. I also had the privilege of working for the Walt Disney Company, a beautifully crafted capital program, and I'm trying to bring a lot of these best practices to public agency. However, I don't think Don back there, I don't think he hired me because of my pixie dust or because I could wear tool bags. I think at the county to impart some positive organizational change, and looking forward to learning alongside everybody on this panel. And thank you. I have some Inland Empire representation with me as well.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. Rafael Guzman from the City of Riverside, Assistant City Manager and Chief Sustainability Officer. So I'm a little bit of an odd duck because I'm in the city manager's office as assistant city manager and one of the few city managers in the nation that have an environmental science master's degree. So I have taken maybe an unusual path to get to where I am, but am responsible for infusing sustainability and resiliency in our organization. I oversee our community and economic development department. I oversee our public utilities, water, electric, and power procurement, and our Office of Sustainability. That topic came up previously. How do you infuse that construct to the organization? Well, we've taken it really to the top of the organization. It's not embedded in a department, but it is an ethos for the entire city team. Real quick aside about the City of Riverside, we're the City of Arts and Innovation. We take that very seriously. I'm just gonna give you one soundbite in the realm of arts and one in the space of innovation. In arts, we are home to the Cheech. It is the largest collection of Chicano art in the world. Cheech Marin, as in Cheech and Chong's. He is an avid art collector. He has over 750 museum pieces. You can come to Riverside and see that. It's a P3. It's a part, the city is a part of that. The Riverside Arts Museum is a part, and Cheech Marin. It is one of a kind. And the 4 seminal pieces are on loan at the Smithsonian, so we know we have something really special in that art space. And the innovation side, we're home to the largest LEED Platinum net zero building on planet Earth. Love to tell you more about that. And I think I'll turn it back over to our moderator.
Well, thank you, Rafael, and everyone on the panel. So we got a wide span of expertise here. We're going to do our best to cover all the land in the time that we have. And I'm curious, just to kind of jump into it, when we start thinking about driving excellence and service excellence within our organizations, what are some of the problems you initially faced, and what were some of the ahas that you had early on in starting to tackle these issues?
As a technologist, technology is rarely the issue. It's always the people. So I have a biased view of that, obviously. But I was a union, labor union president for 8 years. I've worked my way through operations for 26 years. And so I too also have a unique perspective on technology. And I just had a staff meeting with our folks here, and it was people, process, and technology. Technology will follow everything that happens with people, and so as we transform our workforce and as we find new opportunities, there are a ton of new opportunities. Like I mentioned earlier, with AI, there's a ton of opportunities with the pandemic was an amazing accelerator of transformation. We went from every meeting being in person at Metro just prior to the pandemic to 2 weeks after the pandemic, everything was on Teams, Microsoft Teams. And so that transformation would not have happened without the pandemic. So people needed to accelerate that. And so we've been working with our group, our track allocation. We heard a little bit earlier in one of the other sessions about working on the track and on the rail system around fast-moving trains. And so we have a track allocation process that was generated through the pandemic. It is all electronic now. We have a track allocation process that evaluates when work can be done on the track, and so our contractors work through that process, which is all electronic. So digital transformation for me is certainly a technical perspective, but we also have people are the most influential in making change happen.
I think piggybacking on what you said. Technology has never been an issue, it's the people. I think that's what I realized when I started with the city. Like, always try to break the problem into different pieces. And then I realized that there's a big turnover in the government sector, which I realized very early on. And then based on that, set up a lot of training program, Teams training, YouTube video recordings and all that, uploaded on city's website for the subcontractors who were submitting permitting application, so that it's more like a hand holding for them to submit. I would say I would use the word quality in, quality out. So rather than using anything else. So we improved the processing time by almost 450% in the last 2 years. So we're now one of the fastest jurisdiction in the country, based on the frequent trainings and the frequent meetings we had with all the applicants. And some of our permitting is now same day, actually. On our TCP, we're doing 75% of the term permits are same day. On our other public right-of-way permitting, we're like 3.5 days big from 18 days, based on we desematized all that information on a Power BI. So each engineer, when they log in every morning, they know what's on their pipeline, what is expected of them day in and day out. So, and they themselves have a weekly meeting with their seniors and associates. So, and then similarly on the submitter side, we had an extensive training program for those guys. Any turnover, retrain those guys, and we've seen significant improvement in that.
It's more than just the process, though, huh?
Yeah.
Because as the process continues to evolve, continues to change, and you're adding all these new things to your process, there's all these new funding sources coming in for public agencies. We're all growing, right? Our realm of responsibility is growing, but we're not living in a vacuum, because people's expectations, the public's expectations, are also growing alongside us. So, for example, if we pen an email, that's much more efficient than writing a letter, with a pen and a piece of paper. But we're not expected, to do that email in the span of time it would have taken us to physically write a letter. We're expected to hammer out emails, right? And so similarly, I'm actually kind of late to the apps and the deliveries and the Uber Eats and the DoorDashes and stuff like that. But I always use this silly analogy, which is people are used to pulling out their phone, pulling up Uber Eats or DoorDash, ordering food, knowing exactly what they want. They can see GPS located where the car's coming. They want to see how much it's going to cost, when it's going to get here. And when the food gets here, you can actually go on your bank app and you can see they took out $17.99 and I added a $5 tip. So we're living in an environment where the public expects access to information. That wasn't entirely anticipated, right, 5 or 10 years ago.
And what's interesting with it is how this data collection aspect, especially as sustainability has become bigger, is like there's other data points now we have to create that we never really thought about before. You were talking on our pre-call about signing out the car. And I was thinking about, if we were to start tracking our sustainability, do I need to start thinking about every plane ride we take and calculating all that carbon emissions that we start to put in out of our everyday work? And it's really interesting to think about how complicated things are getting with all of this technology we have.
And then that's our blind side, right? So the side we see is the projects. We all know our project. We're good at projects. We know how to deliver projects. If we're carpenters, we know how to build things. But there's another side to what we're doing. And so all those things have to be looked at departmentally. So if I'm Project and Facilities Management Department with San Bernardino County, there are internal processes that have nothing to do with how to deliver a project, such as you mentioned, hey, how do you rent a county car? I know that sounds silly, but what is the process to do that? And if you look within any public agency, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of processes that we always thought in the past that, well, that's a lot to tackle. There are a lot of really neat innovations now. Microsoft Suite, everybody has a Microsoft 365 account, right? Within hours or days at the most, you can build some pretty sweet little systems to tackle a lot of these little micro processes that are going to allow us to continue to deliver efficiently without that waste, especially if we're working with union employees and people that work 8-hour shifts. At the end of the day, they take their cell phone, they turn it off, and they put it on their desk. No after-hours calls, no expectations of that, right? We need to learn how to be very, very efficient with the process.
I'll just add to a couple things. The City of Riverside, maybe 2015, 2016, we did invoke Disney. We had a sort of survey of the team. Where do you go that you really receive the best possible customer service? Disney was always at the top, Nordstrom's, there was a few others. So we consulted with Disney's customer service executive, brought them in for training. That led to some process mapping. We really looked at every single thing that we did, and we found some things that we were ultimately blind to in very simple exercises. For example, a solar permit, our #1 permit in the city. We're, I would say, either 1, 2, or 3 in the nation for solar installations in the City of Riverside. So we have an abundance of sun. That permit was taking 7 to 12 steps or trips for a customer to obtain a permit. We had departments in different buildings, different floors. You had to pay at a cashier. We looked at our team mapping all of those steps. We ultimately got to what would be ideal, and that came down to sort of like a one-stop shop. We branded that. We were one of the first in the country to do that, and we took that on the roadshow, and we asked our design professionals, our customers, what they would like to see, and they said, we want to be in and out in 15 minutes. So we looked at a one-stop shop. We also sort of evolved to a zero-stop shop, and what that really means is that everything you can do in person, you could do digitally. Thankfully, we did that before the pandemic, so we were really 100% virtual in all of our systems before the pandemic pivot, but it's not really worth doing unless you can measure it. So we were looking at metrics, and we brought in QList. That's a company that really maps your workflow and customer check-in to customer checkout. We got below 15 minutes for all of our customers on average. That was a huge win in the community from the development side. We also brought in Happy or Not. We were the first city in the world to basically ask our customers, how are we doing? Virtually, in person, and kiosk. To our surprise, the QList corporate exec said, there is no way that you want to introduce this into a regulatory space. You are going to get hammered with those results. So they said, what are you looking for? And we said, well, we were really looking for, an A minus from our customers. And they said, you're going to get a D, maybe, probably an F across the board, as they looked at sort of stats all around the world. We came out of the gate with 96% customer positive feedback, and many days were 100%. So it was really sort of that Disney ethos, that customer-centric, when you're on, back of the house, front of the house, sort of the character model. But ultimately, all of our workflows pivoted, and we measure everything. And to, I think, your point about sustainability, we not only measure sort of that efficiency, time saved, but those vehicle miles not expended, and how that affects our carbon footprint, and shared that, and that developed a lot of pride in our community, and ultimately led to a lot of additional investments in technology. But I agree 100%, the culture, the buy-in, and the sense of pride, and really connecting our team, because they were seeing the results real time. We can tell when our customers are happy and when they're not. Tuesday afternoon is when they're least happy, and Friday afternoon is when they're most happy. There's apparently a weekend effect.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's a buzz from your last weekend, and then looking forward to your next weekend. And so we brought in everything from more staff during certain times. We're seeing the least happy customer experience, and that really transformed our team with a sense of pride, as they kept seeing that customer feedback go up, and in turn, our elected started to see that, and we were really able to drill down on the substantive customers that were not happy and try to break that down and create a better customer experience.
You know, Nick, as I'm hearing Raphael talk, and you're using words like pivot and nonlinear. So show of hands, who works for a public agency? Oh, I want to give you a hug afterwards. How many times have you received 180 direction? You know, you're going a path and then 180 degrees. So if you're doing stuff like Patrick and Manjeet are doing within their agencies and, you know, implementing AIs and drones and technologies that are tracking things down to the second, and you're told to pivot, how important is culture, right? You know, how important is having a compass? Because to your point, you're not managing machines, you're managing people. And they're not just people, they're like exotic animals, right? So if you've ever gone into like a reptile store or something like that, and you see like there's the Amazonian poison frog, and he has to have a specific moisture content and a very specific diet. And then, you know, on the other side, you look and there's a full-grown African lion, and you know it has we have to feed it full steaks. And then there's a gazelle, and the gazelle needs 5 acres to run. Every single person in the group is like their own, because we are the most exotic animals. We're all very individual people. And to that point, so when you're trying to do things that are very, very ambitious, and hats off to all the agencies that are doing very ambitious things, you do have to stay grounded.
Well, and to bring it back to the other side of the panel too, I think this is a great transition. Is there's the front of house, which you two have talked about, and the customer facing aspect, but there's the front of house of the back of house too, and keeping the assets going. What are some of the things that you've been seeing, Patrick, around keeping the assets operational and getting better results that lead to customer satisfaction?
Yeah, there's several. We have so many opportunities. It's quite amazing. We have a $68 million asset management system that we're implementing right now that will track all of Metro's assets over their lifespan, and really from inception from the procurement all the way through to retirement. So we have work orders that are created. Everything is done electronically. There's no paperwork orders. There's no paper process for evaluations, or we have drones now that are inspecting some of our bridges, and we are going through that transformation is really fundamental to the agency. And as far as the people process too, just to piggyback a little bit on, we're working on an AI policy with our legal department, and I was in the meeting with our legal department, and I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me a policy for a government agency for AI, and it came back while we were still in the meeting, and I inserted it into the chat, and the legal department, legal analysts looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, where did this come from? And I said, I just did it in ChatGPT, and I sent it back over to you. And he goes, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty good. And I think he was fearful of his job. I'm not sure, but you know, that transformation is really indicative of really what's happening in today's agencies. We had another form that had 10 signatures on it, wet signatures. We were going through our electronic signature policy and saying, okay, we don't need wet signatures anymore. We can use electronic signatures. We're going to replace all these signatures. But do you still really need 10 signatures? And I'm not going to call out the department that was doing this, but do you really need 10 signatures to get this to the next level? Really think about that before you just make a digital process out of an analog process and expect improvement, because it's not going to be that way. You will get some improvement, but the real improvement is really changing the process. So as far as our assets go, we're doing that major enterprise asset management system is significant for our agency, and bringing on new assets, all these construction projects, we're bringing on all these assets, doing that digitally. We haven't got there yet. And that's something that I'd really love to see the construction community change away from, here's an as-built drawing and, you know, it's scribbled on the back of a napkin somewhere, and turn that into a digital format. So that's something we're really looking forward to.
And Raphael, I know you had something to add, and we'll turn right back to Manjeet.
Yeah, I wanted to add, I think sort of lessons or takeaways is start small, fail small, lots of pilots. The experience that we had with our one-stop shop, our streamlined Riverside, as I was describing with Disney and process mapping, was a cultural change, significant, so much to the fact that other team members said, well, what about us? And you build some wins, and then you're able to explore different frontiers. More recently, we have explored really robotic process automation, and this is sort of really the sort of the next step. So we looked at, as you were describing sort of your processes, where do we have a lot of manual, high touch points, voluminous spaces, and that was just invoicing in all of our departments. So we broke that down. We instituted some bots. We were very reactive. All the incoming emails, all the incoming snail mail, all the touch points, having to opening that, scan it, send it through 10, maybe 15 approval levels. And we automated that. So we automated the opening of the mail, we automated the data entry, and we saw like a 30% staff savings time right out of the gate, so 20 hours a month. But that was multiplied through lots of departments. We then got to a point where instead of being reactive, we took it to the next phase and we're proactive with the bot that interacted with our vendors. And we have 2,000 plus vendors in our city alone. And we looked at one vendor and they gave us permission to basically reach out, extract the information that we needed from them. And we saved basically 62 hours a month or 750 hours a year. It was about a 99% success rate. That 1% was really new accounts that were being added by that vendor. And so we started to extrapolate. If you take 2,000 vendors and maybe 10% of them are high volume, 200 times 750, you're talking about 150,000 hours of saved time. It's about 75 FTEs a year. As opposed to replacing those employees, we redeployed them in areas to provide a greater customer experience, dealing with reconciliations, being on time, revenue generating activities, and ultimately just providing outstanding customer service. So that frontier is here, and I hope to expand on it a little bit, but I think automating some of the processes can really redirect team members to provide an even bigger impact to your organization.
And I know we're getting to the wire here. I want to make sure we have time for you, Manjeet, and specifically too around how improving the permitting process, working with the variety of stakeholders that you had to do it, and then kind of the effects that had on all the people that had been affected from it.
So a few of the things we did beside the permitting is generating revenue off of the existing assets. So we actually mapped all the streetlight poles at least in the downtown to start off with, and share that data with all our telecom and utility sector to leverage on that, see if you can get on these for your 5G deployment. And we got very favorable response, and we have quite a bit of those sites already converted into 5G, and others are in pipeline. Besides that, my department particularly is enterprise fund, and we just concluded our fee study, and we had a minimal change in our fees. We increased few and we decreased few, but the delta was very low, despite being the cost of changes in recent years. So extending that, we're helping other departments to, for example, real estate, Sumo, to leverage those assets where we are co-locating for 4G, 5G on EV charging stations on our city-owned asset real estate, besides our street light and traffic light signals, without any cost to the city. In post-COVID, I think this is the need is going to get more and more to use city assets to increase that revenue to help reduce the taxpayers' burden.
Thank you. So we're coming up to the end. There were some keywords that were really dropped by everybody on the panel today that I'd like to hammer things home with. Is the people, there's context, process, culture. These are all really key components to building good data strategy, learning how to appropriately leverage technology, and start to act on what you're seeing in your departments. Is there anything else that each of you would like to leave the audience with before we break today?
You're going to have to rip the mic away from me. If you give me an opportunity to tell you about all the great things we're doing at
Ken's
San
on his
Bernardino
way
County,
up here.
Ken's going to come up and he's going to shut us down. But we'll be out there in the foyer. If anybody wants to pick our brains, that's why we're here, right? We're here to meet each other and to network. And I thank you, everybody, and thank you, Nick, for putting the panel together.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you outside. Enjoy the break.
Yeah.
Thank you.